around. So, welcome to Dave Courteen. Thank you very much, Dave. So, Dave is an author, a managing director of the Shrewsbury Club, a managing director and founder of Mosaic Spa and Health Clubs, a trustee of 2 charities, a tennis player, a runner, and a husband,
dog walker. I walk my dog,
and a dog walker, and all sorts of things. So has quite a busy life. And we met. I was trying to figure how long we've known each other. Can you remember when we first met?
Yeah, a long time. We must have just, it's over 10 years, Caroline, so we must have just been children when we met, I think.
I think it was. We met at school. I definitely think it was 10 years plus. And that would have probably been in a meeting to do with Fit Lives Up, which is really sort of gym chaplaincy, which is something that we'll come to later on this evening. We also unknowingly were at Queen's tennis tournament last year on the same day, weren't we?
We were. Yeah.
Were you sitting behind me or in front of me?
I think I was possibly behind you. Yeah.
You were the one lobbing strawberries.
It was me that was throwing strawberries at you.
Yeah. So we share that love of tennis together. So let's start with this amazing book. You've even got a little video to go with the book, and I'm going to actually show that. So there's a website, More to Gain, and on it is a little promo video. So I'm going to do a screen share.
This is very impressive IT skills now, Caroline, I have to say.
It's been a very steep learning curve the last 3 months. Hopefully you can all see. Can I have some nods if you can see this? Right, there is sound, although it's not necessarily speaking, but hopefully this will come. That's a nice
there you go. The music was good, wasn't it?
Great. So this book arrived on my doorstep, and I've sat down with it over the weekend. And I have to say, Dave, oh, is this me still? Oh, it is. Hang on.
We live in a world that is consumed with identity, image and branding. And let's face it, we all buy into brands like...
Sorry.
That's not my video.
There was another Vimeo one. Let me just get this back up. Here we go. So, yeah, David, it's a really beautiful book, and it's really unique as well. Like, I've never seen anything quite like it. And Forward by Judy Murray, no less. Let's see what Judy says. Great things are possible, and whilst the route and challenges will be different for each of us, this collection of inspirational stories by Dave Courteen is a catalyst for positive change. And who doesn't want that? I hope you enjoy this book as much as I have. She goes on to say more as well. How did you manage to get Judy Murray? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, she's wonderful, actually. So I do, So I think I just need. It's an amazing intro, and I'm going to. I'm glad you recorded this. I'm going to play it back to my mum because she'll be highly delighted about all the stuff you said about me. My job really that I do is I run health clubs and day spas, and we're fortunate enough that we've got a club up in Shrewsbury, which is where I'm actually based now, up in Shropshire, and it's our biggest club. So I spend 2 days a week up here, and that's what I do. That's my job, is running health clubs and day spas all around the country. Very lucky. I love my job. Really, really enjoy it. And the Shrewsbury club is unique for us in that it has indoor tennis courts, and we inherited this club. We bought it out of administration. And it was lucky enough that it was on the LTA ITF circuit to run international tennis events, and it didn't do them particularly well. So we either were going to stop doing them, or we were going to really focus on and try and do them really, really well. And we took the latter approach. And over time, we've built that up, and that's become a part of what the club does. It's part of its story, and we now do 2 World Tour events and gets players from all over the world. Last year, we had players coming from as far as Australia, players that are in the top 100 in the world that come and play at our club, and it's a wonderful week of tennis, and I love it, as you can imagine, being a tennis fan. And so Judy Murray has been involved. She came along when she was the Fed Cup coach, and she came along to the club, and we just got talking about tennis, and we kind of just hit it off. We did a sports dinner, and I interviewed her, and we just hit it off. We had some good banter, and she's actually a very funny lady. And she talks all about tennis. She talks about Andy. She talks about being on Strictly, and everybody loved her. And that was there at the event. And she's so different to kind of some of the media persona and stories that you get. And so I've sort of stayed in touch with her really. And the book came about by accident. There's a guy who takes a lot of photography there called Richard Dawson, and does some amazing photography. And we were going to do a book to celebrate his photography that we thought was celebrating 10 years. And we realized we got our dates wrong. It was actually 12 years. So I decided 12-year anniversary book didn't really sound very good. And then a couple of my friends over dinner said to me, why don't you weave some of the stories? I'd kind of written a couple of blogs, and I quite enjoy writing as a bit of a pastime. Why don't you write some of your stories around it and use the photography, but also write stories about how sport changes? Because I really believe that sport teaches so many lessons in life that we can apply. And so I kind of said over dinner, as you do, well, if I can find somebody famous to write the foreword and someone to publish it, let's do it. And so I sort of had this germ of an idea, bumped into a mum of one of the kids that was having lessons at Shrewsbury, was telling me how much she loved the club, and we were just chatting, and we were talking about tennis, and I just, for some reason, I don't know why, I sort of shared the book idea with her, and she said, it's amazing, I'm a publisher. And so kind of off the back of this conversation, she said, I'll publish the book. I think it's a great idea. I love, it's transformed my son's life. So why wouldn't, so I had my publisher, and then I said to the guy, who are you going to ask who could you get to write the foreword? So I wonder whether Judy Murray would consider it. So I dropped her an email, and sort of a long pleading email, don't know if you remember me, but I'm from the Shrewsbury Club, and within hours got a message back on my phone saying, of course I'll write a foreword for your book, send me the details, give my love to your daughters, they're beautiful, love, Judy. And so that was it basically. So I got my two things in place, and so this was just a hobby, it was just a passion project, and it's kind of grown a few legs from there, but it's been a great fun experience.
It's definitely grown.
To put together.
Yeah, it's quite an endorsement, and also shortlisted for the Telegraph Sports Book of the Year, Illustrated Sports Book of the Year.
Yeah, which is just amazing. I mean, I'm not sure whether I'm excited, embarrassed, or a combination of the two, really, because I'm up against all these other professional authors and people that write books. This was just a bit of fun that I kind of had with the guy that takes all the photographs at Shrewsbury. But we've ended up being shortlisted, and it's wonderful and exciting and slightly amazing in equal measure, really. And we hear. I mean, I can't believe I'm going to win, but I'm just happy to be on the shortlist. But we'll find out who's won in our section. We're up against somebody who's been the photographer in the Sun for 30 years of all their sports events. So he's done Olympic Games, he's done Wimbledon, he's done World Cups, and he's called it A Life Through the Lens. And it's just his best photography of all these sporting events. Then we're up against somebody that's doing the 100-year history of the Tour de France, which is a book called Yellow Jersey, which is just lots of photography from that. We're up against someone that's telling the story of Stirling Moss in photographs from motor racing. And we're up against a book that's only available in the Tottenham Hotspur shop, which is about the history of their stadium development. So I'll be disappointed if I lose to that one. But I think all the others, will. And then there's a book about sports cigarette cards or something, which is probably a bit of a niche market, but still is a very beautiful book. So I kind of just feel it's amazing we got into the shortlist, and all these other people are, they that's what they do for a living, and I've just done this one book as a bit of a passion project. So the fact I've ended up on there is amazing.
When do you hear? When do you find out?
It's next Friday week, 17th of
right.
17th.
Not long. That's like waiting for exam results, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but it's okay. I kind of feel like the only thing I'm slightly disappointed about, if I'm honest, is that when I heard they just got this. I just got this email through in my inbox, and it said, embargoed until the 15th of June, which is when they were announcing the shortlist. And I thought it was my friends winding me up, to be honest, to begin with. And then I kind of realised that this clearly was. So I went online, as you do, to go onto the website, found the website, and found that every year they have a big dinner with the who's who of sport to present these awards, and it's always held somewhere glamorous. And this year in September, it's in the Long Room of Lords. I'm a bit of a cricket fan as well, so what an amazing thing to go and have dinner in the Long Room at Lords. Find it where my book's won. And then I read further on, it said, due to the coronavirus, actually we're not going to have the dinner in Lords. We're going to have a virtual event that will be on the computer. So I'm missing out on my dinner.
Yeah.
But hey,
that's really not quite the same. There's a lot that you can.
It's not going to be the same.
Zoom,
I'm going to be sat at home watching it on the screen.
Yeah. Well, congratulations nonetheless, because even being nominated, regardless, I wish you all the best, but regardless, being nominated is a fantastic achievement.
I think you get all the publicity with it being shortlisted anyway, to be honest. So I've got plenty of stories off it, and sales have gone up over the last couple of weeks since that's been announced. So
good, that's good.
Can't complain.
So as you've indicated, it's selection of stories. So there's stunning photography from Richard Dawson, and then stories from yourself about the power of sport, and tennis in particular, and life lessons that sport can teach us, interwoven with stories from your life and stories from people that you know from the world of tennis. So out of those life lessons, I'm going to ask you, obviously you believe that they're all really important. I'm going to ask you to pick one, because I don't want to give away the whole book, everything that's in it. Pick one that, as you would highlight at the life lessons that sport can teach us.
So I think I'll pick one that I think is my favourite story, really. So Marcus Willis, some of you may have heard if you follow tennis. You may recall Marcus Willis is a British player who's sort of had a bit of a journeyman career. I think by his own admission, I think the highest ranking he's ever got is up to about number 300 or something in the world. But played tennis professionally for about 10 years now. And back in 2016, he came to Shrewsbury. He's a bit disillusioned. Played in our men's event at Shrewsbury and said to me, I think this might be my last year. I'm just, it's such a struggle. And for tennis players, if you're in the top 100, you make a really nice living out of tennis. But when you're outside the top 100, it's tough. It's really tough. A player like Marcus would probably pick up about £15,000-20,000 a year in prize money, being ranked about 400 or 500 in the world. And out of that, he's got to get to all the events, which are all around the world. He's got to pay for his accommodation, and he's got to live. So it's a tough experience. So yeah, he was a bit disillusioned with it all, and was umming and ahhing whether to carry on playing. And we played at Shrewsbury. lost in the second round of the singles, lost in the quarterfinal of the doubles. So for his week in Shrewsbury, he went home with a cheque of about £176, which is what he picked up for that. When it came round to Wimbledon, there was a talk about whether you should go into Wimbledon and whether he was going to go to Wimbledon. He'd only really played, the last event he played was Shrewsbury, which was back in February, so he hadn't played much tennis at all. And he was down as ranked at number 20 Brit in the world. And without boring you with the story, but basically how Wimbledon works, you probably know, is obviously depends on your world ranking as whether you get in the main draw. If you don't get in the main draw, you go into qualifying. And if you don't go into qualifying as a British player, there is kind of like what they call a wild card event where you can play off to win the last two wild cards into qualifying. So it's kind of the catch-all to get as many British players as chance as possible to get into Wimbledon. And so how it all works as ever is that you turn up to any tennis event. We had the same thing at Shrewsbury. You turn up, you sign in, you find out according to your world ranking as whether you've made it into the event or not. And I'll never forget, just as an aside, an American player flew over, landed at Birmingham, got a taxi from Birmingham to Shrewsbury, signed in, found that he hadn't made the draw or qualifying, which he thought he probably would do. So got in the taxi, drove back to Birmingham Airport and flew back to America. And that's kind of how tough it can be. And when Marcus rang up the day before the kind of wild card qualifying tournament and spoke to the tournament director and said, look, what are my chances? And he said, well, you're not in at the moment, Marcus, but you're close. You're sort of 2 out. So it's going to depend who turns up or not. And so he weighed it up and he thought, well, if I'm going to give up, then you know, I'm not going to get in again. This is if I show up, you never know. So, and that's the life lesson: is always show up. Whatever happens, always show up. So Marcus got in his car. He drove 3 hours from Warwickshire, where he lives, down to Roehampton. He signed in. He was 1 out. He wasn't going to make it. He stayed there. And Scott Clayton, who's another British player, had actually won a tournament in Ankara. And because the presentation ceremony took so long and the taxi was held up getting to the airport, he missed his flight, which meant that he couldn't get back to the qualifying event before the cut-off time. So the next person in had to come in. That was Marcus. So Marcus got in as the last entry, and because Scott Clayton's flight was delayed. And the end of the story is that what happened is that he won through. He won a couple of tie breaks, deciding tie breaks, got through the 3 rounds of qualifying to get a wild card into qualifying for Wimbledon. He then just played great tennis. He was on a roll. He'd got nothing to lose. So he got through into qualifying and got to Wimbledon, main draw Wimbledon, which was only the second time in his career he'd done that. And he played Richard Berankis, who was a world number 78 at the time. Marcus was world number 930 or something, I think. And he just played the game of his life and beat Richard Berankis in straight sets, knocked him out, which got him into the second round at Wimbledon, which meant he got picked up £60,000 in prize money just by getting to the second round. And as the luck would have it, the draw had him playing Roger Federer, and he played Roger Federer on centre court, and obviously the story just picked up in the press, and so he got to play Roger Federer on centre court. He lost in straight sets, but actually he lost the first set 6-love. He only lost the second set 6-3, 6-4. There's one famous rally, which if you Google it, you can watch, where basically he's running from side to side trying to return. Federer's playing him. He runs to his backhand side, plays the shot, falls over on his backside because he's run there so fast, gets up off his backside and runs back and hits a running winner past Federer. And that won BBC's Shot of the Championship. So he picked up the Shot of the Championship trophy for this shot. He aced Roger Federer, so he can now say aced Roger Federer. But it was just the biggest mismatch really in sport, because Federer had earned that year 1.7 million and he'd earned £176 from his performance in Shrewsbury. And but that's the beauty of it. And the point is, I suppose, the life story about all of that is that you know, we should always show up, because you never know by showing up what that's going to lead to. We'd all show up for whatever our life equivalents are of a centre court performance or match against Roger Federer. Of course we will. But the only way that Marcus got to have that centre court experience against Federer was because he drove 3 hours 3 weeks before and showed up when there was virtually no chance of him getting in, to play on some back courts at Roehampton with one man and his dog watching, and got through. So the life lesson was always show up. And the story sort of finished off the BBC. There's some great clips. I mean, he's so understated. He was interviewed on the BBC's Wimbledon programme that evening and said, you know, what are your thoughts now? He said, well, this isn't my standard Wednesday. That was it. It was his first live, which was just he just played Roger Federer on centre court. And he said to him, what are you doing tomorrow? He said, well, I'm playing in the Coventry evening tennis league tomorrow night. I've actually got a match, and so I'm going to go back and play there. So they then had the cameras, because he'd made such a name for himself. So the cameras turned up at this Coventry and District evening league tennis match because he'd promised his mates that he'd play in this match. And so the day after he played Roger Federer on centre court, he was playing in the Coventry and District evening tennis league. So it's because he always shows up. That's what he does. So there are. That's one of the stories, and that's one of my favourite ones. And I think the fact that it was sort of linked with Shrewsbury, that's the only tournament he played other than Wimbledon, was made it all the more special for me. Yeah.
And when does the Shrewsbury tournament take place?
So this year we were the victim of coronavirus when the first event's off. So it should have been the women's W60, which is the World Tour event, should have been the second week of March, but it was obviously one of the ones that was called off. And provisionally the men's is at the end of September. But I mean, the event may happen, but it won't happen at Shrewsbury unless we can have a crowd, because it just wouldn't work. The logistics wouldn't work. Our members don't mind giving up their tennis courts if they can watch some amazing tennis, but if they're going to have to give up their tennis courts and not even be allowed to watch it, it's a bit of a nonsense. So so we just wait and see what would happen.
So usually in March and September. Well, you clearly see a lot of tennis players come through the club before they make it to Wimbledon. So that must be fascinating. And Marcus is an example of one of those, and there's stories of more in the book as well.
Jo Conter as well, and there's a story about Jo Conter which is good, and she's another player that we've had at Shrewsbury, and we've been very lucky.
Fantastic. And with another sort of angle, business angle, you founded with your business partner Mosaic Spa and Health Clubs. How long ago was that, and how's that business grown? What have been some of the kind of key challenges or highlights along the way of establishing a business like that? So
we've it's 33 years ago actually. So there you go, 33 years we did that. We set it up. There was 3 of us in one site. Business has now grown a bit, so we've now got 25 sites and about 500 staff, although 490 of them are furloughed at the moment, so it's a bit a different challenge. But I mean, it's like any business that's survived that long. We've had our highs and our lows. We've managed to survive. That's the critical thing. We've gone through a number of structures. So we sold out to a PLC. That didn't go particularly well. We bought the business back from the PLC. We've had some high net worth investors and kind of grown it from there. We bought them out. We managed to acquire a couple of standalone clubs with some venture capital backing. They then wanted to exit, so we had to find a way of exiting them, and we've sort of restructured to be able to do that. So it's just what I do. It's I'm very lucky. I love my job. I love developing people. Our products, because it's mainly contract management, our product is the people that we employ. So I just love spending time helping them develop. We try to promote our staff from within. I'm proud of the fact that of our 35 managers, 29 of them have been promoted into that position from within our organisation. So that's something I kind of hang my hat on. And we've evolved from being purely health clubs into day spas. So I sort of studied health and fitness and anatomy and physiology and kinesiology, and never did I ever imagine that I'd be talking about manicures and pedicures and massages and facials and all that sort of stuff. But I've got 2 daughters, so the great thing about it is, I mean, I'm not trained as a therapist, but the great thing is my daughters think because I work in spas that qualifies me to paint my nails. So I am one of the dads that gets to, so they won't have their mum paint their nails. When they want their nails painted, they come to their dad. I just think it's fantastic. So I love that fact. So I wonder when they get a bit older and they suddenly realise, actually, he wasn't qualified, was he? He just ran them.
So what was the last beauty treatment you had?
Last beauty treatment I had was a facial, because actually they are lovely. So there you go. It's an anti-aging facial, because I'm actually 82. You would never tell, would you?
It's wonders. You look amazing. On my post-lockdown list is to visit a Mosaic spa and put myself in for a treatment.
Well, you visited a Mosaic spa, didn't even tell me, and didn't even have a treatment, did you? So just
No, I
before
know.
lockdown.
Kept that on the down low. But yes, no, that's definitely on the list. But obviously, fitness centres being hit so badly, health and leisure industry with the pandemic, you know, will be one of the last to sort of open.
Yeah.
That's pretty challenging, particularly when you've got 25 centres and you know, nearly 500 staff. How stressful has that been for you the last few months?
No, it's been tough. It's probably been the toughest time we've been through. You know, I think on the one hand, the government have been incredibly supportive. They responded really quickly. The furlough scheme has kept my business alive. Otherwise, we wouldn't have survived. That's simple. Along with most of the other businesses in my industry. So I think they've been excellent in terms of certainly the way they initially responded to it all. I think they were excellent. I think as excellent as they were at the start, they've been pretty poor over the last month or so. I think coming out of lockdown, going into lockdown was great. Coming out of lockdown's been pretty embarrassing. You know, we went as an industry to them on the 7th of May with protocols about how you would safely open health clubs and gyms, and the issue is around the things pass through hard surfaces. Obviously, people breathing is an issue, and they're going to breathe more in a gym. But the ventilation in gyms is the best that you would get compared to in shops or pubs or restaurants. So you know, we demonstrated with all the scientific evidence that actually gyms could be made COVID secure, and they just forgot to read it, and which is what they've admitted. And you know, so the thought of opening pubs and restaurants, we've all seen the pictures of what went on. You know, social distancing is impossible to maintain in some of the busier city centre pubs, but it's really easy to maintain it in a gym. And the other benefit with gyms is that, of course, it helps build up people's immunity, help people be fit, so it helps them to cope with or recover from coronavirus. So I think that's a bit frustrating. It's a bit frustrating today that they've wiped out VAT on the hospitality industry, but not on health club memberships. That seems completely daft. Surely, you know, what you want people to be doing now is encouraging people to exercise. That's been a message they've been coming out with. But we've got eat out to help out. So, you know, go and stuff your face and the government will pay a tenner. But actually, why couldn't we have workout to help out and encourage people to go and exercise? So it's a bit frustrating, and we still don't have a date when we can reopen, which is probably the most challenging thing. You know, I've got a lot of staff who've really struggled with this, and they're struggling with the fact that everywhere else is opening up, and they're still no idea when they can go back to work. And they know that the furlough scheme starts to come to an end at the end of July. So yeah, it's been tough. We've done as much as we can. We've been doing a lockdown Olympics, which is kind of this type of Zoom event and lots of different competitions, etc., for our staff to try and keep everybody feeling like they're part of a team. But it's been challenging. But of course, it is unprecedented. You know, nobody's gone through this before. There is no roadmap, so I fully accept it's tough for the government. And I think, you know, they've done a lot of good measures. So it's important to recognise that and focus on that, as well as, you know, get slightly frustrated with some of the what seem to be poor decisions that they've made over the last few weeks, to be honest.
Yeah. But it's really good to hear your perspective on that, actually, and your insight into that. That's really helpful. Myself as a gym chaplain, I don't know when I'm going to be going back in, and I'm meeting with gym instructors for coffee mornings, and they're like, everybody's asking us when's it starting again, and none of us know. But when
I think it'll be this month. I mean, I cannot see how a government can force businesses to stay shut and have zero income and ask them to expect to then contribute towards their staff salaries. Which effectively, if we're shut in August, is what they'll be asking us to do. I mean, you know, we want to contribute to our staff payroll. Well, with what exactly? You know, we went on the 20th of March from being a £10 million turnover business a year to a zero turnover business. I mean, just on the strength of one Boris Johnson announcement. So, you know, I think it'll be this month.
Okay.
Could be listening.
Let's hope so. Get that fitness back. Well, we first met when I was starting out as a gym chaplain. And I'm very aware that people go to gyms for more reasons than just fitness. That they're lonely, they're going through rehab, they've got body image issues, self-esteem issues, a whole variety of things. And I've seen how people really appreciate just having someone there that they can talk to in a whole variety of ways, who's someone who's got some time and some neutrality and confidentiality for them. So for you, as a manager of a chain of fitness centres, why do you endorse gym chaplaincy? Because you're one of our greatest advocates. But I'd imagine a lot of managers of fitness centres would be very sceptical, or, they'd think, what's this religious thing that's coming in? That's got nothing to do with sport or fitness. We need to keep that separate. So what is it that you see? Why do you, as a fitness manager, endorse the chaplaincy?
So I think there's a couple of things. So I think just on a pure business perspective, forget the faith perspective, just from a pure business perspective, the name of the game in health clubs is about retention, is about retaining your members. And the more that you, there's a great quote that we use in some of our training. It certainly wasn't mine, but I kind of use it anyway. And that's where we say to people, look, it's really easy to cancel a membership, but it's usually pretty tough to cancel a friendship. And so actually, the more we can build people with a sense of community in their gyms, and that they come to the gyms and they meet people that they're friends with, the harder it will be for them to cancel. So the work that you do, and the work that the other gym chaplains do, is, from a purely business perspective, it's fantastic for me as a gym operator, because you build friendships. That's what you do. You provide people with support and you talk to them, but you're building friendships. You're a friendly face in the gym. And therefore, that's going to create stickability, for want of a better word, for people to stay. So it works from a business perspective. It works. Obviously, I came to faith when I was in my 30s. So I was acutely aware that, as you alluded to at the start of this question, that people come to gyms because something's missing, and they're trying to find that through exercise and health, and that may indeed help. And I'm grateful for the fact that it does. I've built a business on it. But often what they've got is a bit of a God-shaped hole, and that's the bit that's missing, and that's the bit that needs to be put in there. And so, helping people try to find that and try to fill that space with their faith and explore their faith through a number of things that you do through your chaplaincy courses at some of the gyms is also great. And from a sharing faith perspective, and from a helping people find the answers that they didn't actually even realize they were looking for, I think it's a brilliant opportunity, and the gyms are a real environment for that. And it's a sad situation that so many gyms offer what I would call the really way out kind of alternative solutions for lots of people, and they think nothing of that. But as you well know, and as I know, sometimes we have to persuade them a little bit harder about something that is far more mainstream and is. Jesus was radical, but he's now fairly mainstream, and so it's a shame that others don't embrace it. But we think it's great, and you and I have over the years have shared so many stories that are just fantastic. And it's not, all I would try and do is facilitate an opportunity for God to do His work. That's it really, is allow God to work through you and talk to the people that He's trying to get to. So it's wonderful when that happens. And we've got some great stories going back over the years of where we've really helped people, and God's worked in their lives through the work that you've done with Fit Lives and with Third Space Ministries.
And it's a beautiful way of just bringing together the mind, body and spirit aspect, isn't it?
Exactly.
I know that a lot of gyms now are looking at that whole holistic approach. So actually, to acknowledge that there is a spiritual element to the whole of life is a great way of bringing that into the sort of fitness side of things and general well-being. So your encounter with Christianity, what was that, sort of like halfway through your business career or something, you started to explore it, or what's your own story there?
Being the first third of my business career, actually. Yeah. So no, I came to faith through Alpha. So I just decided to go for an Alpha course when I sort of turned early 30s, I think, and felt I need to do another one. So of course I wasn't quite sure about that after the first one, but and then just felt I wanted to make that commitment, and felt that I wanted to actually, I felt like I wanted to put that into action, and probably needed to do that through my work. I've always kind of felt that sometimes we think about ministries and mission work as though it should be something that we do a long way away, and I think sometimes we miss the opportunities that are right under our noses, and I've always felt I've always felt that I don't need, or I haven't felt called to go to Africa. That's not, or anywhere, to a third world country. That's not to in any way criticise people that do, because they do some amazing work. That's fantastic. But I've just always felt that my mission field is really close to home, and I'm in this wonderful position where I run my business. So I'm lucky. I can be an influence. I can make some decisions. I don't have to go and persuade anybody. I can make some decisions for myself, and so I just felt that was a real way that I wanted to connect, and then bumped into through a spring harvest event down at Butlins, an organisation called Fit Lives, and became involved with Fit Lives, and ended up being sort of chair of the trustees of that, and that's where we then met, wasn't it, Carolyn? And so Fit Lives has worked for a number of years, and then we've kind of rolled that into sports chaplaincy, because that's effectively what it is. And sports chaplaincy do amazing work in the field of sport, and I'm very proud to be having a very small involvement with them, supporting them through the trustees. So yeah, that's the story of my faith journey, and how I've kind of put that into action. But it was an Alpha course that helped me find my faith, and I'm not alone in that, I don't think.
No, and it's actually James Auckland that we interviewed last week came to faith through an Alpha course as well.
Right.
So but it's great to see how your faith is, how you bring that into the whole of life, and that impacts how you view what you do, and where you're feeling called, which is where you are right now.
I think it's really important. Sometimes it's easy to kind of just think that the faith part is what we do on Sundays. Yeah. And there are times when, to be honest, when that would be true for me. But actually, I do try to work hard that actually, I can be a Monday to Saturday Christian as well, in terms of the way I behave and the things that I do through work. I'm in a very fortunate position, and I can help to influence and support people, and if the opportunity arises, share my faith, but if not, at least live out a faith-filled life that hopefully is a bit contagious.
Yeah, fantastic. And going back to the book, one of the chapters is about the importance of legacy. So what legacy do you hope to leave?
Yeah, that's a tough question, isn't it? I think so I think the most important legacy would be the way that way my daughters grow up. So Rosie's 14, Minnie's 12, and I think first and foremost that's my most important legacy. Is not so much what I do, but what I instill in them. And I think as a parent, I have a huge responsibility to help them and to guide and nurture them in the right way. So I think to a certain extent, that part of what they become and who they are will be my legacy. I think from a work perspective, Steve and I, who set the business up, we've always said that we've sold it once and bought it back, so I'm quite sure we followed this through. But we would see we are looking now. We're both in our mid-50s, so we're looking to find a way to pass that on to the staff team. So we're succession planning, in order to enable those guys to come through, so that the business can carry on, but without being sold to a third party. And our mission vision statement, if you like, through work, is that we make a difference to the quality of people's lives. So I'd like to think that part of the legacy would be that through the work that we do in the health clubs and spas, we do make a difference. Actually, we help people that have a need, and we know. I've got some lovely emails that I've kept that when I'm having a bit of a down day, remind me that actually we do a good job sometimes. And so I think to a certain extent that's kind of the legacy. But I think it's for other people to determine what your legacy is. To be honest, we all leave a legacy.
Yeah.
It's just what sort of legacy do you want to leave? So
yeah.
So I think hopefully, my daughters will have seen from me that, if I want to do something, I think you should just go out and do it. I mean, if you just said to me 5 or 6 years ago that I'd write a book, I would have laughed and laughed and laughed. So, but actually the opportunity came along, and I did it, and so I think, if you want to do something, just give it a go. Why not, actually? And
yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds like you're doing a great job of leaving that legacy right now, which is brilliant.
Nothing else. They like having their nails painted, so maybe that'll be my legacy. Beautiful nails. Maybe that's one of my legacies that I never expected.
Andy Murray was saying, I was watching him being interviewed, and he said that his kids aren't really interested in tennis at all. They just want him to go into their arts and crafts, and they want him to draw pictures for them so they can colour them in. And he's rubbish at drawing pictures, and he feels very inadequate at drawing pictures. So,
I leave all that side. Yeah, the creative side I leave to my wife. So my children are quite musical. They definitely don't get that from me. So I can delegate some things out.
Yeah. So are you feeling the loss of Wimbledon this fortnight? Yeah.
Although, so I follow the tennis podcast, and they've been doing Wimbledon Relived. So that's been quite good fun, actually. So I've quite enjoyed it. So I don't feel I've missed too much of my tennis. And there's been some amazing stuff on the telly, hasn't there? There's been the Wimbledon. I think they've called it Wimbledon Relived or something like Wimbledon Rewind. So we've watched that, and we sat with with Rose and Millie are also into there, and my wife. We're all into our tennis. So we sat and watched the Andy Murray Djokovic final when he won it for the first time, and Rose said, it was really funny because she said to me, Dad said, I know the result, but I'm still holding my breath here. So in that last game. It was quite remarkable, wasn't it? So there's been some great matches. So it's not felt too bad, but I love my tennis, and I worry about when we can get back to actually being able to watch sport.
Yes, absolutely.
Tennis hasn't exactly covered itself in glory with how it's dealt with coronavirus, with the Adria tour that Djokovic did, where a load of them got coronavirus now. There's 3 or 4 players in the States that have got it at an event. So I think we're by playing tennis, they're pushing back the time when we can get back to having live spectator sport, but that feels a long way away.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only good thing about it is you can watch tennis. I've decided you can watch tennis without a crowd on the telly, and it's not anywhere near as bad as watching football on the telly without a crowd. Football without a crowd is just dire, so I've not been able to watch that at all, although I love my football. But tennis is all right somehow or other. You can maybe I'm more used to watching it without a crowd. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe different sort of sport. So I'm going to open it up for questions in a moment. So do have a think, but how can people get hold of your book?
Well, the ideal way is that they go moretagain.co.uk, because one of the things that I've learned as an author is that actually you don't make any money out of books. So if people buy it through Amazon, it's available on Amazon for about £25, I think, at the moment, and I get 80p if you buy it from Amazon. But if you buy it from my website, then actually Amazon don't take their cut, and the distributor doesn't take his cut. So I actually make about a tenner. And it's cheaper. Moretagain.co.uk would be my preferred route for you to buy it from. But absolutely, it's available from Waterstones and Amazon, and it feels very odd to be saying this sort of thing. But so there we are. You can get it from Waterstones and Amazon and all the bookshops maybe.
On the Mosaic website, isn't it on special offer?
It is, yeah.
£20?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. To be honest, without sounding too too big time, but I've got a friend that actually looks after that side of it for me. But I'm pretty sure it's £20, Caroline.
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, I mean, not only is it a lovely book to have for yourself and to display on a coffee table, and you can say that you've actually met the author. I'm starting to think about who can I order this for as a Christmas present. Like, it's such a nice gift book. Do you know what I mean? Because it's hardback and it's beautiful, and so go out and get your orders in ready for Christmas is what I'd say.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything about the writing, but the photography is incredible, actually. So we are very lucky. This guy Richard Dawson just rocks up to take a few pictures for the press, but he likes his photography, so he stays there for half a day and then just kind of gets these most incredible, iconic shots, and he can do stuff with the lighting and the backdrop. Yeah, there's some quite incredible photography in there. So we designed it as a coffee table book. That's exactly right, Caroline. That's what it is. So, and there's a few stories from me that I probably.
And if you don't have a coffee table, still can it can go on any table.
Yeah, dining room table.
So yeah, it's beautiful. Are there any questions from anyone about any aspects of what Dave's been chatting about? Unmute yourself and chip in if you want to throw something his way.
You've asked them all, Caroline.
Let me change the screen so I can see.
Yeah, that's it.
Any questions from the floor?
Yeah, quick question, Dave. It's a very charming interview and very honest and open, and appreciate everything you've said.
No problem.
It's a good story that you were sharing us about Marcus, where if there's a mantra, just turn up. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You've obviously had lots of ups and downs in your own life. What would you summarize as perhaps one of your main learnings that you would then be sort of passing on almost like a mantra?
I think it would be, and it's probably pertinent for now, it would be worry about the things that you can influence and don't worry about the things that you can't. Lots of people have talked to me about, what's going to happen if people don't come back to their gyms? What happens if half your members cancel? And I can't control that. So there is no point worrying about it. What I can worry about, and what I've been worrying about over the past 3 months, is to make sure that staff are well looked after, that they still feel part of the team, and I'm just focusing on all the things that I can actually influence. So I think in life, that would be my mantra. Is worry about the things that you can influence, and the things that you can't, well, you can't influence them. So whatever's going to happen is going to happen. You just got to deal with it. So yeah, that would be my mantra.
How profound. Thank you. Because so many of us worry about the world in general and things that we can't influence. And as you say, perhaps let those go and just worry about the things that we can and then influence them. Yeah, thank you.
Exactly. No problem.
Anyone else?
I was just wondering, Dave, if you've already had an idea for your next book.
So, yeah, no is the short answer. So there is a bit of a backstory, actually. So I without taking up too much time, but very, very quickly. So when my daughters were 2 and 5, my wife was diagnosed with advanced breast cancer and given only 40% chance of surviving. And so one of the things that I did was I wrote a blog that was from our perspective telling that story. Anyway, the blog took off, had lots of people following it, and Breakthrough Breast Cancer turned it into a book. So actually, this is my second book. There is a first book that was out there called The Last Chocolate Brownie, which was taken from the scene in the film Notting Hill, where they all tell their hard luck story to win the last chocolate brownie that's at the dinner party. And so that was our attempt. And so we turned it into a book, and we raised about £20,000 for Breakthrough Breast Cancer, and it was used as a resource to help. So that was my first book, and first foray into writing a book. And Rose, who's my eldest, had always been on to me and said, "Daddy, I want you to write another book. I want you to write another book." And I kind of felt that sat heavily with me, because she, I kind of felt like, she got this book and she knew that I'd written it, and it was only when she was 5, and she got older and she kind of understands it. And so it kind of sat with me a bit. So that was why I think what was one of the drivers for me to do this book. When a couple of people suggested, I was thinking, okay, well, this could be the book that Rose has always wanted me to write. So she doesn't want me to write another one. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure that that there will be another one. But I've learnt actually to never say never, because I also said I'd never buy my business back, and I've done that. So you never know. But at the moment, I think it's got to be a passion project. Everything came together, as I said at the start of this. Really, I didn't think I'd persuade Judy Murray to write a foreword, and she wrote a lovely one. I didn't think I'd find a publisher, but it all came together. So that's happened, and it would need something similar for me to write another one. It's you don't make any money out of it, but it was I didn't do it for that reason. The fun of it was putting it together and going through all the different stages. So yeah.
I'm looking forward to reading it. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I was just going to ask Dave how many months it took to put it together, or years.
Yeah, you'd be surprised actually. Probably not as long as, I mean, so the actual writing of it was probably about 6 or 7 months, probably. And then there's a fair amount of work went into the design of it. It was very much a book that, you know, I'm not a writer, so it needed other things than just the writing. So the design of it, we spent quite a lot of time in design of it. So there's lots of quotes around the photography as well that amplify the points of the story. So kind of researching the quotes and designing it up took a fair bit of time. But I enjoyed the writing process, but that actually was only 6 or 7 months, and the book itself, from start to finish, was about 12 to 14 months. So yeah, it wasn't. We got it out just in time for Wimbledon last year. So.
Any more questions? Well, we shall wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for carving out some time to meet with Dave and hear about the book and his life and journey.
I thought I was just going to have a catch up with Carolyn tonight. To be honest, I'm surprised.
Just invited a few others. And thank you for those of you that have been supporting our events through this fortnight. Really, really appreciate it. We are continuing to give away our stress balls and gospels, the love all, serve all ones, for free for anyone who writes in this fortnight. If you know anyone for whom they'd like that, do let me know. We'll be sending those out in the post. And yeah, do keep in touch. Go to our website, sign up to sort of receive our newsletter to hear more. If you've enjoyed things that you've seen and heard this last fortnight, or follow us on social media. Huge thank you to Dave. Yeah. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Great fun. Oh, it's been great fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you.
And wish you, all of you, the best of the rest of the Wimbledon fortnight, so to speak. Enjoy catching the tennis when you can on screen.
We'll all need to get together in the queue next year, won't we? That's what we need to do.
Yes, let's do that. Yeah. Great. Thank you, everyone. Good night. You're welcome to unmute and say goodbye.
Well, thank you so much,
Bye-bye.
both of you, for a really interesting hour or so. Thank you very much.
Very good. No problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you.